Now, as we talk about those two scenarios, the best possible scenario or a good scenario where they're out and about through the project, you know, the Vantage thermostat and station adapters, they're really freaking awesome, guys. We know, in all seriousness, they are good, reliable, solid products. And they, together with Equinox, are very capable of delivering a fantastic experience to your customers. But we know that we can't handle all climate scenarios, all situations, technical requirements, regional needs, and such. So we've worked hard to create and test and provide some great climate partners for you to work with. So for example, guys like Tecmar, who specialize in hydronic, multi-stage, and can take advantage of specialty geothermal installs perhaps. They are a premier partner. We have worked closely with those guys and directly with their engineering teams and our engineering teams to test them, and tested them in real projects out throughout the country and in Canada to make sure that those are a reliable and a good partner. You know, speaking about reliability, we're going to choose products as premier partners that can add to the overall experience, right? And that Equinox can utilize well. And we will continue to just very carefully add products to this list of supported climate partners over time. You know, as you take a look at the screen here, guys, and as you can see, for climate, we have several systems listed here. And there are corresponding drivers online in the online library, or they're found in Design Center. It's important that you look, when you're in Design Center, that you look for that little EQ checkmark icon next to the driver in the driver pane as you're working with this, because those are the ones that we've tested, guaranteed, locked down, and have information about that particular system. We know the guys there, and we know some of the limitations or the way to go through and set it up. You know, speaking of that, another example of a good partner system that we've worked closely with over the years are the VRV or VRF split zone systems. You know, primarily these systems have been heavily used in Europe and South America, but to be honest, we're beginning to see, and I think some of you on the call perhaps have worked with some of these systems or seen them on some of your projects, where we're starting to see these get installed here in the States, and especially on the East Coast and in California. What's important to note about these is that each of these VRV and VRF systems that we list here work specifically with a protocol adapter that is resold through our office out of Europe. It's called the Vantage-HVAC- you know, fill in the blank XX part number. And as you come across some of these split zone systems, give us a call in tech support or talk to your sales manager about working with this product as we start to see those. Because every single system, whether it be one of the standard systems like a Bryant or a Carrier or a Tecmar or a split zone system, has special needs. And you know, as you see on the screen here, there are some images on the right-hand side as screenshots of documents that we are preparing for each and every manufacturer. Those are sample documents, for example, of how to work with Apollaire. I'll talk about those in just a minute more. But I want you to also notice that we know there are other systems that are out there besides the ones that we have listed here that are interesting, that are up and coming, that we know there are opportunities for you and for us to take advantage of. And so we are working with Nest on their API and with Honeywell on their relatively new RedLink and Wi-Fi thermostat systems to acquire the APIs and build premier partner drivers, Equinox drivers that will be supported as we move forward in the upcoming months. So what I want you guys to take away from this slide, you know, there's a lot of information on the slide, I get it, but what I want you to take away is this statement, okay? It is, if I use this product, fill in the blank. In this case, we're saying Vantage CC Stats, right? Whether it be in a centrally or remotely or locally installed set of thermostats, or one of our premier partner drivers, again, taken from this list, or from the website. And if you use the driver that corresponds to that system, and if you set it up in DC, and if you use Equinox interfaces, you'll win. But that's the whole point of this webinar. Who do I use? How do I set it up? What do I get? So as we talked about these 3 pages, Reed, if you can move to the next slide.
Do you mind if we use that question?
I don't mind at all.
If we look into Train, what about
Yeah, Train is an interesting one. Train has been one that's been requested over the year, but they have not traditionally had an open API that was not BACnet specific. So they didn't have a 232 or a 485 or even an IP-based protocol. We've reached out to them several times. And if anybody has a contact at Train that can help us acquire or find out more about an open API, I'd be more than happy to pursue it. So good question. But along those same lines with Train or with others, in this case Aprilaire or Carrier and Bryant and Daikin and the others, you see up on the screen here what we call the integration guides. Now, as you see these are just 3 sample pages of anywhere from 6 to 10 pages of information that is a document per driver, okay, where we give you the compatibility chart on whether it will work with 4.0 or it won't, or it will work with tasks or it won't, or it will work with full widgets or it won't. Wiring instructions and pinouts, full bills of material, how to set it up in Design Center, how to set it up in the widgets, things to watch out for, stuff that we know is a struggle perhaps for a specific system. Case in point is Aprilaire. The Aprilaire driver is a great driver. We've had projects that have installed Aprilaire systems to the tune of, say, 30 thermostats and used a single connection to the Aprilaire system. And that's great, and it works. But one of the things, or one of the challenges that happens with an extensive system like that with one communication point is that the speed with which that system can communicate back to us can be relatively slow. So you hit an increment or a decrement, or you want to change a set point, and it can take multiple seconds and maybe even up to a minute at times before some of that feedback will come across all 30 of those thermostats through the driver and update to the screens. That's not because we don't want it to go faster. That's just how the system works and how their communication and their protocol works. So we put that kind of information out there for you in this document to make you aware so that you can make informed choices as you are working with manufacturers that say, well, I want to work with this guy. All right, great. What should I know before I get in there? And I get into some hot water perhaps with the customer who expected a different set of behaviors. Okay? So those are becoming available on the dealer website and in the driver help files.
So a couple more questions came up, Brian. One about NuHeat. They've got a Wi-Fi unit. Yeah.
And NuHeat.
They're in-floor heating. They basically are an electrical in-floor heat, but it looks like they've got a Wi-Fi stat on.
So do you want me to address that one?
Yeah. Do you know anything about?
I don't know NuHeat specifically, but here's our stance on Premier Partner drivers. Basically, there's 2 choices that we can make. If for Equinox Premier Partner driver development, we need to see, just like all of us, we need to see opportunity in the number of projects that are possible and in the number of wins that we can help you with. And we definitely have a priority list that we're pursuing right now. We're hot and heavy with shade manufacturer drivers as we get ready to release the shades. So it's not that we don't want to do NuHeat, but in time we could do them depending on what the opportunities are. It may even be a second option where maybe we don't make them a Premier Partner because we don't really see them except maybe in 1 or 2 projects a year. So the extensive testing may not be worth it, but perhaps we can make them Equinox compatible and test it out and see if we can get some feedback and control going. But it wouldn't continue with extensive testing each and every round of development that we go through. That would be the primary difference. So great question, and that would be true of any system, whether it be a security system that may not be a current Premier partner, or it would be an audio system as well. So good question, appreciate that.
Can you take a couple more?
Absolutely.
So there's a question about the Nest thermostat and the learning capabilities.
Yeah.
You know, how would that, what would be the implications of that learning functionality in terms of our scheduling, etc.?
Yeah, at this point, we don't know enough about the API to say definitively one way or the other, but on initial review of the Nest API, what we would do is we would keep those two things separate. So as you know, with Infusion and Equinox, everything is last in is the management, is the one that's going to happen. So if you set up schedules and the schedule comes up and we're going to tell the Nest to go to XYZ temperature, if there's an option in the Nest to disable that or enable that, we'll take a look at that and say if it's already in a learning mode, we won't set the schedule, or another option that you would have is to not use schedules and let the Nest do its own learning, and then use the Equinox widget in manual mode, and then just affect changes as you need if you want to increment or decrement, just like you would from the Nest front end. So, but we'll take a look at that in time and see. But I'd say on first review, it would be the second option.
Then do you guys know if there's a wireless humidity sensor?
No. There's no wireless humidity sensor. Let me clarify that. I do know we don't have one.